It is precarious fun navigating our hotel's genuine stone spiral staircase. Most of the building, it is claimed, dates from the 12th century, although truly records are uneven that far back. Here and now, the owner hosts are cordial and breakfasts are yummy. Always we feel ourselves drawn towards this great river. For thousands of years, its vast current has brought commerce and culture, and more recently, an abundance of tourists to nourish the local economy. Boatloads of visitors feed euros into local shops and restaurants.
The Arles Amphitheater is in remarkably good condition for having been completed about AD 90. More than 1.5 football fields in length and a little less wide, it still hosts sporting events for thousands of fans. Today's contests are sometimes climaxed by a dramatic contest with a local Camargue bull, whose inevitable demise at the hand of some Spaniard bullfighter in these latter years is observed by Christian and pagan alike, both safely perched in their paid spectators' seats.
This evening, our Provençal restaurant food is crafted in the basement below. The dumbwaiter shaft beside the front door carries hot entrees upward and occasionally a yelled comment downward from our server to the harried cooks below.
Delicate and expressive sarcophagus art is visible and touchable at Arles Museum of Antiquities. Often these exquisite bas-reliefs depict Bible stories. Also to look at, over there, is a statue of the Roman Emperor Augustus, made when the man was still alive. It's that same fellow who sent forth a decree that all the world should be taxed.
This central plaza, faced by several 800-year-old buildings, rises above the ruins of the ancient Roman Forum.
Among today's attractions, the Cathedral of San Trophime is one of the oldest. If you have the ability to pause this disc and examine and ponder these carvings on the church facade, we encourage you to do so. It is a 13th century view of the end of the world and the fate of sinners and of the redeemed. Inside is bare but grandly Romanesque style architecture, hardly a pointed arch to be found anywhere.
And now, stepping into the basement below all basements, we wander through hundreds of yards of hallways filled with cast-off bits and pieces from cultures past. All in all, these pieces of carved rock are still impressive in this mysterious setting, with the distant, quiet dripping in these tunnels. It is easy to imagine oneself dressed in a tunic or toga, wandering these same arched passages in another era 2 millennia ago, buying grain or visiting with the local seller of cheese.
Remember, that's your last clean toga. Yet another center of historic interest is the cloister attached to the San Trophime Cathedral. Clearly, this structure was added onto the cathedral itself hundreds of years later. It is filled with the Gothic architecture style that has spread from the northern provinces. Bible stories carved onto the bases and capitals of columns around the central garden remain interesting, although centuries of exposure to air and pollution have clearly taken a toll.
I would like to know something of art history wandering in this place. So many connections to eras of history are presented, and so many creative linkages to major traditions of design. A so-so teacher from my past, who now and then spoke something profound, once said truly that you can't study anything until you have studied everything. I realize this, standing in the midst of these chiseled-out creations in stone. The more a person learns, the more a person will be capable of learning. Hygiene in Roman times was big business. This is the remaining half of a large community bath dating to the 4th century. While it is hard to quite picture the whole place in its original form, functioning as a place to see and be seen and visit with one's government official while everyone in the room is enjoying the warm water with varying degrees of modesty, you can imagine scenes here and there. A curving stairway into a private pool.
A hypocaust, in addition to being a dandy word for a Scrabble game, is the name of a Roman heating system. You stack up a tower of these tiles every foot or so, on the tops of which you build your actual walked-upon floor. In a detour on its way up the chimney, heated air then circulates down there among those supports, making for a cozy floor to walk on above and a pleasant room as well. The downside is the system requires a prodigious amount of wood to burn, and the fires have to be constantly attended by slaves, which the empire seems to have a great supply of. It was once togas and tunics here, and the dominant language, at least among the power players, sounded like an obscure and needlessly complex form of Spanish. One of the last events of the week is an afternoon trek through a huge cemetery, unused for 500 years or so, whose occupants were laid to rest there over the course of some 15 centuries before that. In Roman cities, which Arles certainly was, it would have been unthinkable to bury people within the city limits, and so tracts for the purpose were set up outside the city walls.
The names are as faded as the memories of the people who owned the names. Now one hopes that their lives, now long expired, meant something, that they strove for virtue, that they loved well.
Vincent Van Gogh and Paul Gauguin, during some months before the former's madness cost him an ear, painted along these avenues side by side. Also remembered here is a local Roman administrator of about the year 300 named Genesius. As a secret convert himself, he refused the empire's order to execute citizens for the crime of believing in Jesus Christ. For this iniquity, Genesius was hunted down and beheaded, and then buried here.
This roofless building housed the main center of Christian ceremonies for hundreds of years, until the Cathedral of San Trophime, within the town's limits, miles away, was completed in the early 12th century.
Regarding burial in those days, everyone wanted to be interred as close as possible to a saint. The notion was that in the resurrection, they might perhaps be caught up too, by proximity to one guaranteed to be among the ascending blessed. The name of this place is Les Champs, the regional dialect's rendition of Les Champs-Élysées.